Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode number 4 of the Greater Freedom podcast with me, your host, Nicola Charlotte, and I am super excited to be joined today by Ashley Wray, who is CEO of Mala Collective, and we're going to be talking today about what freedom looks like to Ashley, how she has created this for herself through a very successful career and a very inspiring lifestyle, which we're going to hear more about today. But I'm going to pass over to Ashley first to introduce herself, introduce her business before we delve into some juicy questions around how she has created greater freedom for herself with her business and her lifestyle. So Ashley, thank you so much for joining me today. And I can't wait to hear a little bit more about your story. So please do introduce yourself.
Oh, thank you. I'm so grateful for you to have me here today. So thank you so much. So as you mentioned, my company is called Mala Collective. We work in the world of meditation. So we make beautiful products to help people meditate, like mala beads and meditation cushions and crystals. And I'm also a meditation teacher and a coach. So it's been a beautiful journey for the past 11 years. I still can't believe Mala started 11 years ago.
Amazing.
And it all started serendipitously by meeting somebody on an airplane in Asia. So I very deeply believe in serendipity and synchronicities. And now, 11 years ago, meditation was so foreign to people. And I would say meditation is such a big part of the reality of what we need to reduce anxiety and to deal with mental health, especially post-COVID, that meditation has really become more and more inclusive in our everyday, whether or not we call what we're doing with breath work or taking a moment of pause, meditation, a version of mindfulness and mindful living has become the norm. So I'm so grateful to be in this world and be teaching and leading people through it. It's such a gift.
Amazing. I don't think I'd realized that it was 11 years ago. I mean, for context, for those people listening, we were in a mastermind together about 8-9 months ago. That's how we first met, and I've been since then following Ashley's journey, and she's an absolute jet setter. And if you're listening on the podcast, you won't necessarily be able to see, but she's staying in a gorgeous Airbnb or sort of homestay at the moment in Lisbon, and I guess that's one of the kind of beauties of having your own business and being a CEO, is that freedom that it gives you. And I guess I always like to caveat, because freedom looks different to us all, and there are obviously lots of responsibilities that come with running a business, an international business, that some people might think, well, actually, how much freedom do you have? Because it's not like you can just sort of be off the grid for months at a time. There is an element of responsibility that comes with that. So what does freedom mean to you, and how is that showing up at the moment in your life and business?
I think that's such a beautiful question. I would say for me, my version of success is freedom of time. So freedom of time to me is so important. Freedom of time of where I'm spending it, who I'm spending it with, how I'm spending it. And this became really apparent to me maybe 6 years ago in the business. In every business journey, for me, I started in a basement suite hustling. I was the very short version of how I started the business is I used to be a journalist. I used to cover murder trials, and between Canada and England. And I won a national award in Canada, quit my job, went to Bali, fell in love with these mala beads, was flying from Bali to Thailand. A lady sat down beside us on the plane and said, "I love your aura." And she was the woman that made the beads that we bought. So that was the very serendipitous connection. So there was never this goal or intention to start a business. So starting this business, there was so much shame and self-doubt that I had no idea what I was doing. And I was still working, 9 to 5, working full time, hustling on the side. So I had no freedom of time. And, fast forward, I'm going to jump over a whole bunch of stuff here, but fast forward a few years later, we launched with Lululemon as their first co-branded product in North America. So Vancouver, I'm from Vancouver-based company, huge company around the world. What an incredible gift that was. And the reason I share that is because that's the moment we became a real company. That really made us, put us on the map. And after that, my version of success was, wow, we should get a really big office and I should hire all these people. And we did. We had this huge office, had a huge team, had, days where you could bring in your puppy and organic juice delivery, and all these teachers and speakers would come in, and it was, all those things that look cool from the outside. And I remember walking in one day and thought, oh my goodness, I hate it. I hate this. This was my version of success before, and I don't like it. And why don't I like it? And I realized I didn't have time. I had to be the first person in, the last person out. The expectations of me were so different. Whereas I started this business to have freedom of time and adventure around the world and work from my laptop and learn about meditation, learn about mindfulness and explore. And so what came out of that, again, this is 6 years ago, before remote was cool. I started interviewing CEOs because there's a few companies that were well known for being remote, asking them, how do you maintain a business and culture being remote? And they all said, I don't know. We're just figuring it out as we go. And so I said to my team, we're going to go remote. And my girlfriend came in, looked at our office, said, I love this space. I said, how would you like it to be your space? Because we want to go remote. And she signed the lease. And within 30 days, we were a remote company. And when I look back on that now, I'm like, wow, that timing was pretty spectacular. And I think it's the universe works in our favor when we are clear on our values, we're clear on our success, we're clear on what freedom means, and when we're in alignment. And I think that moment was such a snapping and clicking of alignment. And I mean, of course, there's still fear of, oh my goodness, how do we be remote? We're going to pack up this beautiful office that I worked so hard to get. And all I kept telling myself and my team was, if we don't like it, we'll get a new office. It's not that hard to sign a new lease. If nothing is permanent unless we want it to be. So that was a really big moment and lesson for me around what freedom and success means, and how do I stay within that alignment if that shiny, sparkly version of everyone else's success metric sinks in. Because sometimes when our version of freedom or success doesn't align with someone else's, I'm sure you've experienced this, we get commentary around it. I remember being on a date with a guy and him saying, you're closing your office? That's really embarrassing. You probably shouldn't tell anybody because it looks like your company is going under. And I thought, oh my gosh, like, and it kind of triggered a bit of shame, but then it triggered, oh wow, my version of success is not going to always align with everybody, and that's okay. And just so curious the judgments that can come up when we have a different value alignment than somebody else.
Yeah, and that was the biggest thing that I picked up on when you were explaining that story, which is such an incredible story, by the way, and how incredible that you were able to say, this isn't aligning with what I want for myself. This is misaligned with the original reason why I set up this business. And actually, I need to take responsibility and aligned action to rectify that. And I'd say it's such a common sort of trap, I guess, that so many people fall into, especially I would say at the earlier stages of your business, are doing things because you think that will generate the success, or launching in a way because you believe that is what is the successful way of doing things. And it doesn't really matter what anyone else is doing, because if you're in alignment with your values, with your sort of soul's desires, with your energy, that is where you're going to get the success, and that is where you're going to create whatever freedom means to you. That is how you create it. And of course, we're going to get kind of caught up and wrapped up in what other people are doing, because there's a tendency to look outwards as to, oh, how are they doing it? Great, that means that this is how I do it. And I think there's a real movement at the moment, especially within my own work and how I'm helping clients, of what does life and business your way look like? Hence why I'm always curious of, like, what does freedom mean to you? What does your lifestyle look like if you could just sort of create this perfect lifestyle? And then how is your business set up to afford that? Rather than let's set up the business and then look at the lifestyle, or then look at the success. It has to almost, like, for me, I'm like, let's lead with lifestyle, then create a business that's going to give you that lifestyle. So I suppose that's sort of the route that you ended up going down as well, of like, actually, freedom, time's the biggest thing that I value, and that's the one thing that I don't have, despite having a really successful business.
Yeah, beautifully said. I think that's beautiful work that you're doing, and so needed and so important.
So we mentioned the freedom of time. So I guess you're now running this business remotely with your team remotely. So how how do you ensure that you maintain the level of time freedom that you desire, like whether it's boundaries, whether it's self-care practices? Like, I'd love to hear sort of how you ensure that that is something that's remains present.
Yeah, I'm not perfect at it. I think it's really funny, teaching meditation and mindfulness. I think people have the impression that I have it all figured out. And I love the phrase, we teach what we're seeking. And it's a continual growth and continual learning for me around mindfulness and self-awareness and mindfulness of time. And I'm not perfect at it. I think as a CEO and as, a leader, what a gift to have freedom of time, but also my brain doesn't turn off. It's 11:40 a.m. here. I think I was up from 5 till 6 in the morning writing down ideas for the business. Like, I just shot out of bed. And sometimes that happens, and that's just part of the game, I suppose. But when I'm traveling, what are some of the things I do? So I don't have Slack or email on my phone, and I never have. I feel this might be a bit controversial, but I feel like there's nothing urgent in business, especially meditation. We're not in surgery. We're not saving lives. We are helping people through mindfulness. And I think that the idea that when we create urgency, we create this vortex of how we start to treat each other. And this time, this respective time, is a really big theme within our team, and ensuring that we are all respectful of each other. And making those urgent last minute requests is actually not loving or kind. And of course they'll happen. Of course they'll happen. Of course there's, oh my God, we have to pivot. We have to change this by tomorrow. But that's not the culture that we thrive on. In terms of like my personal practice, my personal routine, it's so funny. When I was living in Bali and in Asia for a long time, working with a lot of remote workers, there's this thing called the tropical tax. Sometimes the tax of having the time freedom is you take meetings at 2 a.m. and then you go back to bed. And that's just part of it. So I think there is a reality that, there is a little bit of sacrifice here and there, but in the big picture, it's so worth it to me. So being, I've been traveling around Europe for a couple months. I was here teaching meditation in the south of France. Like, even to say that sentence out loud, what an incredible gift. What an incredible gift. And so I think there's just this awareness of, wow, yes, travel can be exhausting. Yes, it can be really lonely, but the benefits, in my experience, outweigh the sacrifice and the struggle. And the moment that they don't, of course, I'll reevaluate. But in this moment, I still receive from this lifestyle and meeting people that are interesting. And I now am in Lisbon for 2 weeks, and this is a moment that I get to introvert and take care of myself. I found a yoga studio. I found a health food store. The craving of routine and being back in my body. And then there's the adventure and playfulness of being on the road and being a bit more extroverted. I think that the ebb and flow, I've not mastered it, but I've always been very aware of, this is a moment in time, and I want to live this moment in time as fully as possible. So I try to embrace it and be mindful of taking care of myself.
Yeah, I think that's amazing, because it's what I'm sort of hearing. It's the clarity on what your values are, and ensuring that you're living in a way that's true to those values, but recognizing that actually, yes, if I want to live in Bali, that might be that I have to have a couple of calls that don't make sense, but that's because I've chosen to do that. And something as well that almost is coming through that I really resonate with is it's the luxury that we have to choose what we do with our time, and how amazing that we've created a lifestyle and a business where we do have the luxury of time. As you say, there might be some things that are more urgent, or that we simply do need to get done for a client, or whatever it might be. But actually we can say, oh, I'm going to do that in the morning, then I'm going to choose yoga in the afternoon, or yes, I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. to sort of journal and download all these ideas. But how amazing that I then get to get back into bed and enjoy a coffee whilst I'm catching up on my favorite TV show, or whatever it might be. So it's this intentionality behind how we're using our time, and intentionality of creating that freedom that we desire by carving out our business or our lifestyle or the location to really honor that.
Yeah. And I think it's also, I really believe in intuition, and I took an intuition training through COVID. And, if intuition feels too woo-woo for anybody listening, I think that, a way that I would summarize it is it's how we synthesize tangible and non-tangible information. So we've all had that like feeling like, ooh, I knew I shouldn't have trusted that person, or I knew I should have gone left, or I knew whatever the download is. I think that there is a deeply intuitive part in this type of lifestyle of exploring the world. And, the past 6 weeks I've been traveling, and deep down I realized, wow, I would really like to settle somewhere where there's ease and there's support. And I'm not trying to, I love my life so much. And sometimes traveling alone can be really lonely because there's nobody to go, hey babe, where do you want to go next? And like, what a gift to have that freedom. But also to do it alone can be kind of this funny place of like, what an empowering thing, but also what a lonely thing.
Yeah.
So I would sit there and go, where do I feel will have ease and support? And so that for me is a very intuitive experience of, I trust that there's no reason for me to be in Lisbon right now. There's no reason at all. I just felt, oh, I think that will be easy and loving and supportive. And the intuition's not always, correct. I was in Ibiza a few weeks ago, didn't feel aligned there, and ended up finding a Vedic meditation teacher. So I trusted, this was the reason I was meant to be here, to do a meditation training that I never could have manifested beforehand, because I didn't even know that was there. So there's these downs, and I'm trying to actually, I think I'll use the word surrendering into every decision and trusting that it's meant to be, and following intuition. And at the same time, if something's deeply uncomfortable, just having the power to leave and realize I don't have to stay here.
Yeah, I love that. It's such a sort of beautiful energy to be in, of trusting, and it's almost a bit of like a kind of playful energy, like, let's see what I feel like doing, and let's lean into where I'm being pulled, or let me just be open-minded as to what might come through. And I think that for people listening is such a good, well, not good, that's not a very powerful word, but magical sort of takeaway of like, how can we lean in more to what we're desiring, and how can we sort of question maybe whether we are in the right place, whether we do want to move on, or whether the launch that we do have coming up is feeling right, or whether the program that we are thinking about, is that actually what we desire, or can we lean into our intuition more and kind of ask to be guided. And on that topic of intuition, slightly sort of off track question, but for people that maybe don't feel that connected to their intuition, or would love to adopt more of this sort of intuitiveness into their life and business, is there any kind of top tip or way that you could recommend? I mean, is meditation a way that has helped to sort of cultivate that connection stronger?
Yeah, great question. I think the word intuition can feel so woo-woo and non-tangible that it's like, well, I want that. And I think there's that phrase of like a woman's intuition. Like, we all have intuition.
Yeah,
we all have
definitely
a knowing, and we've all experienced it in some way. It just comes to us very differently. So I think what I would say is, when we're going a million miles a minute, we don't create enough space to receive that knowing, that download, that message, whatever word resonates for you. So as an example, let's say, when you're driving, or when you're on a long drive, or washing the dishes, or in the shower, and you have those aha moments of, oh yeah, I have to email that person, or oh yeah, I was going to do this today. Those aha moments are also intuition moments. Those are also downloads. And they often come to us when we are in a place where we don't have to think with such a busy mind. So, when I use the example of like washing the dishes, or being in the shower, or driving, because they're repetitive motions that we know. I'm not saying like we zone out when we're driving. I know a lot of people do. And it's always that feeling of like, how did I get here? That feeling of like, when we're in that flow where we don't have to think so quickly, that's when we get those downloads. So of course, yes, meditation is a beautiful way to become more spacious in, I'll say it this way. I think when I'm teaching meditation or when I talk to people about meditation, I think that their impression is I can't meditate because I have too many thoughts, or I'm really bad at it. I sat down once and I had way too many thoughts and I sucked. That's not what meditation is not meant to be elimination of all your thoughts. Meditation is just sitting with our thoughts, creating a little bit more space between them, which can also sound like, well, that sounds nice. How do I do that? And the more that we sit with ourselves, even if it's 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, the more that we sit with ourselves, the more that we follow our breath, maybe breathe into our belly, listen to a guided meditation, the more we start to slow down and actually we start to release stress. And as we're releasing stress, we start to create a bit more space within ourselves. And as we're creating that space, that's when those intuitive hits, those aha moments, those knowings, those feelings, those start to come in. And what I think is the second part of that is sometimes we get them and we don't trust them. So that whole example earlier of like, I knew I shouldn't have trusted that person, or I knew I should have gone left. That means we received a download, we received a message, but we didn't follow it because we didn't trust it. So I think that as we sit with ourselves more, the more we start to create space for that voice, or, some people receive intuition through hearing a voice or through seeing something or feeling something, whatever it is, there's 5 different ways that it comes through. The more we start to trust it and the more that we start to follow it. So, as a tangible example, years ago when I didn't travel as much, I had a general manager of my team, and she's like, you need to go on holiday. You're just super annoying and you're micromanaging everyone and you need to get out of here. And I didn't know where to go. Being single, I'm like, this isn't as fun planning a holiday alone. So I started looking at photos from places around the world, and I saw a photo of a temple in Bhutan and just started weeping. I had no idea where Bhutan was. And I was like, that's where I meant to go. Maybe a bit of a weird way to plan a holiday. And I ended up booking a flight, going and hiking in Bhutan. And as I told you before we started recording, I'm going to a wedding in 2 weeks to MC. And the woman that was my tent mate on that hike is whose wedding I'm MCing. And that trip was life-changing. That trip was the most incredible experience. And it was because I sat and trusted, wow, that was a pretty visceral reaction to a photo. How often do you sit and look at a photo and cry? I mean, for me, not that often. So I took that as, ooh, maybe there's something there that's kind of cool. So it's maybe just noticing our reactions to things, trusting, ooh, maybe that's for a reason. And there's so many beautiful meditation apps out there. Insight Timer is a beautiful app. I mean, Headspace, Calm, there's so many cool things that we can listen to. My favorite meditation is Joe Dispenza. He does a really beautiful morning meditation. And just whatever works for you. There's no there's some tips that I can give around meditation, but I think people get so caught up on the right and the wrong. I teach so many analytical type A people that what's the right way to do it? What's the wrong way to do it? What's the ROI on this meditation? So
it's that sort of, once again, it's that openness to exploring yourself, sort of something that I do, which I almost play around with, because I'd say I'm intuitive in the sense that I'll see angel numbers quite a lot. Well, 1111 every single day, 111 in just the most random places, like the train will be delayed until 1111, or I'll get a refund for £1.11 from something totally unexpected. But now I've been trying to do a bit more, because I'm sort of trying to, well, my intention is to strengthen my relationship with my intuition. So for the last few days, I've said, okay, show me a white bird, or I tried to think of like random things. Like I said on Wednesday, I was like, show me a unicorn today. Honestly, I saw it in the most random place. I couldn't, it was on the back of this guy's wheelchair crossing the street at like 7 p.m. on Tuesday in this random street in London. I just thought, and that's sort of my way of being like, okay, that's sort of me connecting in with a sign and being guided. And it's just, there's no right or wrong answer. As you say, it's creating that space. And one thing that it links to ultimately is that freedom, when you're giving yourself that space to create separation from your thoughts, from the have tos, from the shoulds, from the sort of routine and rigidness, you're creating that space for new ideas to come in, for new downloads, for spontaneous conversations, for signs that you think, oh, actually, maybe that is the right way of doing it. And ultimately, by doing that, you're creating that freedom for yourself to do things in a different way and to really carve a business model or a lifestyle that is so you, because you're allowing yourself to listen, to feel, to lean in, away from the noise of what we think we have to do, or the success that we think is, you know, the best way of doing things. So yeah, lots of routes that you can go down that topic, but really, really interesting.
I will say, like, the last part that I'll add to that is, as you mentioned, in creating a business, meeting that lady on a plane and having that moment of serendipity required trust to follow through. And when I tell that story, I often hear like, wow, I wish something would fall into my lap like it fell into yours. And I understand what that comment means. We all wish we had something like that happen. But I think we do. We have people every day that come into our lives that can change our life. And we meet people every day that we can change their life. Yeah. But most of us, our immediate thought is, that's too good to be true. I could never do that right now. Maybe I would do that later, or I have X, Y, and Z.
Or it's not the right time, or
not the right time. So there's also a trust in when we have those moments to pursue it. And mind you, like, I was in a place where I didn't have kids, didn't have a mortgage. I was able to travel. I was able to start the business. And when I had people say to me, like, what are you doing? This is crazy. Again, I said, hey, I'm a pretty smart cookie. I got here in life. If it doesn't work out, I'll do something else. And that understanding, like, I truly believe we are our own backup plan, that I will catch myself if I fall. But knowing, if I hadn't have leaned into that serendipitous moment and followed that intuition, that nothing would have come out of it. So I think that there's the creating space for intuition, hearing the intuition, and then following it. As much as it might not make sense, I think it's like a feeling, hey, this feels pretty good, I'm going to pursue it. So I think that there's serendipity and magic, as you said, everywhere. And I think the more we notice it, like, the more beautiful our lives become.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. So many pearls of wisdom, and so many, just such an inspiring story. What I would say to people listening, it's like, lean into those moments of magic, trust yourself, create that space to reflect, to have downloads, to, you know, check in with how you're doing. And if it doesn't feel right, trust that, you know, there's another option, there's a better way, there's a easier route that you can follow, and be clear on what either freedom means to you, or what the core values are that you want to be living your life by and building your business against. And if there's anything that feels misaligned, then let this be your opportunity to kind of take one step in a direction that feels more aligned, knowing that it's totally possible, and actually the responsibility does fall on us, even though it might feel a little bit daunting or scary. Like Ashley said, you know, closing down this amazing office, actually she knew it didn't feel right, and by doing so, look what you created. So yeah.
Thank you
so much for joining me. How can people get in touch with you? Where can they find you? I'll obviously leave all the links in the description box, but please share so that people can give you a follow and connect.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, on Instagram, it's Mala Collective. And my personal Instagram is Ashley __Ray, WRAY. And I know you'll link it. And I mean, please reach out. I love talking to people about starting businesses and meditation, and how do I start meditating, and what's a mantra, and how do I choose a mala. So, I mean, we're a small team, and we love talking to people about these things. It's the most beautiful window of vulnerability that we get to have really powerful conversations right off the bat with people. So don't be shy. Please reach out. We love talking about these things.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And I will speak to you all in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.